Okay, today we're still using our trig functions. We found missing sides of triangles. Now today we're going to add finding missing angles of triangles. Okay. In order to do that, we're going to show you the inverse sign, which is the opposite of sine, would be the inverse sign. We're going to use our phones and Desmos, so you guys can see Desmos. If you have your own calculator, you can have that out as well. I'll show you how to do both. So arc sine and inverse sine, and this is what they look like on your calculator. You have arc sine x or sine to the -1 of x. They mean the same exact thing. Some calculators will have arc sine. Some will have sine to the -1 x, which is called the inverse sine. But they both do the same thing. It's used, is the inverse of sine. It is used to find missing angles in a right triangle. So if you're trying to find the angle instead of the side, you have to use inverse sine. Arcs, cosine, or inverse cosine, again, these are how you would see it on your calculator. That's the button. Is the inverse of cosine. It is used to find, again, missing angles. And arc tangent and inverse tangent, right there. That's how you would see it on the calculator. Arc tangent x or tangent to -1 x. Any questions over that? Let's show us how to use this. Okay, we want to find the measure of angle A. So again, we want to circle that. That's the angle I'm dealing with. And then we want to label the opposite, the adjacent, and the hypotenuse. Okay, Kyle, what is the opposite of angle A? Very good. So this is my opposite. Three, what is the adjacent then? This is the adjacent side. That makes this the hypotenuse. This time we want to identify which trig function is going to use. We want to find the ones that both have numbers in this case. So which trig function would I use that uses the adjacent and the opposite class? Tangent. We want to use the tangent TOA. Since I'm trying to find the angle, we're going to use the inverse tangent. So the inverse tangent of A is going to equal 5 divided by 6. Opposite, oh sorry, that's wrong. Opposite is 6 over adjacent, which is 5. Opposite over adjacent. Any questions over that? Yes. Because we're looking for the angle. And when we're looking for the angle, we have to use the inverse tangent. And that's what that signifies. Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to go on our phones. I'm going to type in Desmos.com, or if you have the app, open up Desmos. Everybody, if you don't have a phone, then you're going to come grab a calculator. No, it's free. Desmos, you can get the calculator for free. Okay, you'll get here, and then you're just going to say start graphing. And this is what you should come to. Again, if you're a junior, then this is kind of similar to what the calculator will look like on your CAS testing. that you'll be having in like 2 weeks. So you're just going to go to the number 1. You're going to go, oh, close up. You're going to go to the functions. You see that button right here, function. Click on it. And it has all those trig functions. We want the inverse of tangent. Some of them might say arcs tangent. That's the same thing. So you want the inverse tangent and put 6 divided by 5. And it gave me 0 point something, right? Okay, we are in the wrong settings. Okay, so we are in radians, and we don't want to deal with radians right now. Right now we're dealing with degrees. In pre-cal, you'll deal in radians, and calculus you'll do radians, but math 2 we're going to do in degrees. So you go to your little toolbox up here, the settings. Right up here if you don't see it. And then you look down here and there's radians and degrees. Click on degrees. Okay, and that makes more sense now, right? We're used to having angles 50 degrees. We're not used to having angles 0.5. Okay. And we're going to round to the nearest degree. So that's going to give me the measure of angle A equals 50 degrees. Any questions over that? If you're using one of my big calculators, you do the exact same thing. You hit that trig button on that calculator and you should see the inverse sign. And it should already be in degrees. I don't think they're in radians right now. They're in degrees. Anyone unable to get 50 degrees as an answer? We're all good? Okay, next one. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to label the opposite, the adjacent, and the hypotenuse. We want angle C this time, so circle it. Jeremy, what is the opposite of angle C?
AB.
This is my opposite. Kelly, what's the adjacent?
BC.
And so AC is the hypotenuse. I don't want to use AB because it doesn't have a number there. So I want to use the hypotenuse and the adjacent. We again look at so, and which trig function class? Cosine. So we again want to use the inverse because we're looking for the angle, the cosine, inverse cosine of angle C equals adjacent of 7 over the hypotenuse of 11. So we go back to our Desmos. I'm going to delete all that out. Here are functions. Inverse cosine of 7 divided by 11. And it's 50.47. Again, if we're rounding to the nearest whole degree, it'd be 50 degrees again. So the measure of angle C equals 50 degrees. Any questions over that? Okay, next one on your own.
Did I leave my wallet in here?
Why would you have your wallet in here?
Because I have this class.
No, you don't have me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to find all the sides and all the angles. If you have two sides, so if you have two sides, you want to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the third side. And that again is a squared plus b squared equals the hypotenuse squared. Write it down, please. Okay, so this is the hypotenuse. That's all I really care about at this point. EF is what I'm looking for. I'm going to put an X there. So I have 4 squared plus x squared equals the hypotenuse squared, which is 11 squared. If you do not have it equal to 11 squared, you will not get this right. So that's the key, is you need to have it equal to the hypotenuse squared.
So plus or minus X.
Plus. Then we're going to get 16 plus x squared equals 121. Subtract 16 from both sides. I'm going to get x squared equals 105. Is that good math? Then we square root both sides. Then you're going to get x equals, let's factor this, 5 times 21, and then 3 times 7. Do I have any pairs that I can pull out? Nope. So it's just going to be x equals the square root of 105. So FE, or EF, let's plug that into our calculator and see what actually that value is. I have 10.24. Oh, 25. If we round better. And it's about 10.25. We're actually going to multiply it, or sorry, not multiply it, use our calculators to find it, because we have it. Makes it a little easier. Any questions over that? We're all good? Okay, so from there we can find, we found all the sides, now we just need to find the angles. Number 2, use inverse trig functions to find the missing angles. Okay, so we're starting with, it doesn't matter which angle we find first. Sarah, which angle do you want to find first? D or F?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry?
D.
Yes. Okay. Again, it doesn't matter which one you use. Okay. Just either one will work. So we're going to do D. We want to label. This is the opposite side. This is the adjacent side. And I already have my hypotenuse. We're all good. Now, I probably don't want to use the value that I found, 10.25, because what if that's wrong? If that's wrong, then I'm going to get all of any other problem I do with that number wrong. So I want to use the ones that they gave me, which would be the adjacent and the hypotenuse. If we did find EF correctly, we could use it and get the same answer. We just want to always use the ones they give you. Any questions? So we identify Atoa. And my adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So I'm going to do the inverse cosine of angle D equals the adjacent of 4 over the hypotenuse of 11. Go back to our calculator. I'm going to do inverse cosine 4 divided by 11. And I would get 68.67. So we'll round to the nearest whole and get 69 degrees. So the measure of angle D equals 69 degrees. Any questions over that? Yes. Yes. Yes.
Are we always going to round to the nearest whole number?
I would, for the degrees, round to the nearest degree. The side length I could do 2. But whatever the homework says, I think they'll give you how many decimal places to round to.
Sure.
Okay. We still need one more angle defined. And again, if it's wrong, what we can do, you can just use the sum of the interior angles, number 3. We're going to use the sum of the interior angles equals 180 degrees, or in a right triangle, the 2 non-right angles are complementary. Which means they equal 90 degrees. Because if you have a right angle in the triangle, so that's 90 degrees right off the bat. 180 minus 90 would be 90. So the other 2 angles have to add 90. They are complementary. That's what complementary means. So we're going to say the measure of angle D plus the measure of angle F equals 90 degrees. Any questions over that? So we have 69 plus the measure of angle F equals 90 degrees. Subtract it. And the measure of angle F equals 180 8. 21 degrees. Now I have all my side lengths, all of my angles. So we're done. Any questions on that? Okay, next one.
Can you go back to my computer on the next?
Mhm. We're good. Okay, this one's a little different because it gave you one of the angles first and only one side. Okay, so the first thing, the easiest thing to find here is to find the missing angle. Use the measure of angle D plus the measure of angle F to equal 90 degrees. The two non-right angles in a right triangle are complementary, they add to 90 degrees. So we're going to do 36 degrees plus the measure of angle F equals 90.
Couldn't you? Wait, never mind.
Minus 36 minus 36, and the measure of angle F equals 4, 8, 54 degrees. We're good? Okay, the next one would be, we have to use our trig functions again to find our missing sides. We can't use the Pythagorean theorem because we only have one side. And for the Pythagorean theorem, we need two sides. Okay, so I'm going to use my existing angle that I have, that they gave me, and I'm going to label opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. I have to use the opposite side because that's the one they gave me. Melissa, which side would you like to find first? Okay, it has to be two letters. F to what? F to D, FD. Okay, so this is going to be the hypotenuse. So I have SOHCAHTOA Riley, which trig function am I going to use?
So
The sine. We're going to use the sine of 36 degrees equals the opposite, which is 2.5, over the hypotenuse, which is my x. Any questions over that? Put this over 1, cross and multiply. So x times sine 36 equals 1 times 2.5. Then you're going to divide by the sine of 36. These will cancel. Okay, I'm going to plug that into my calculator. .5 divided by the sine 36. 4.25. We're going to round it to 3. Oh, sorry, to 2 decimal places. That would be 2, not 3. 4.25 centimeters. So that would be DF. Okay, we have one more side to find. You want to use trig again? Find the last side. We're going to use our trig functions again to find this, that third side. And I'm going to put y here. So ED, to find ED, we need to, not going to use this anymore. We want to use the opposite and the adjacent. I mean, which trig function am I going to use? Okay, the tangent. So we're going to do the tangent of 36 equals my opposite of 2.5 over the adjacent of y. And then we're going to cross multiply. And get the tangent of, sorry, y times the tangent of 36 equals 2.5. Then divide by the tangent of 36. We get y equals, let's go back to our calculators. 2.0, let's delete all this. 2.5 divided by tangent of 36. And I have 3.44. That gives me 3.44. So that'd be DE equals 3.44 centimeters. So now I found the missing sides and the missing angle. Any questions over that? We're all good? Okay, on the back. So I want you guys to do F now on your own. Or working your pairs is fine. Okay, so we mostly came up with this. To find the missing side, we should use the Pythagorean theorem. And it should be 4 squared plus 4 squared equals my hypotenuse squared, which is the x squared. That'll give you 32 here equals x squared, square root both sides, and I'll get x equals the square root of 32. If you plug it into your calculator, you'll get x equals 5.66. Okay? Most of us are able to come up with that. Then for the missing angles, so I found angle A first. I labeled this the opposite, this the adjacent, and this is the hypotenuse. I use SOHCAHTOA. And that tells me that tangent is the one that uses the opposite and the adjacent. So I use my inverse trig functions. Tangent of -1 of angle A equals my opposite of 4 over my adjacent of 4. I plug that into my calculator, and that tells me the measure of angle A equals 45. Then to find the measure of angle C, my two non-right angles, A and C, the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle C will equal 90 degrees. So 45 plus the measure of angle C equals 90. So the measure of angle C will equal 45 degrees as well. Any questions over that? Okay, continue on with this one. Check your work there.